I'll never forget the day my world came crashing down around me. It was a typical Monday morning when my boss, Wayne, called me into his office and dropped a bombshell. "Anthony, I'm afraid we've decided to let you go due to poor performance." I was stunned. I had always received positive reviews and was considered a top performer in the company. I knew something wasn't right. As I left the office, I couldn't shake the feeling that something more sinister was at play. Little did I know my boss had been sabotaging my career for months, and it was all because of a personal vendetta against me. My name is Anthony, and I'm 32 years old. I've always been driven and ambitious, but nothing could have prepared me for the betrayal and deceit that was about to unfold. I had been working at Smith & Associates for 5 years, climbing the corporate ladder and earning the respect of my colleagues. Bronnie, my colleague, had always been friendly and supportive, but even she seemed distant and uneasy around me after my meeting with Wayne. I couldn't understand what was happening. As I walked out of the office building, I felt a sense of uncertainty and doubt. What had I done wrong? Why was Wayne doing this to me? I knew I had to get to the bottom of it, but I had no idea where to start. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and frustration. I tried to make sense of what had happened, but every door I knocked on seemed to lead to a dead end. It wasn't until I stumbled upon a cryptic message from an unknown number that I began to piece together the truth. "You're not the only one who's been watching you." The message sent chills down my spine, and I knew I had to be careful. Little did I know, my journey to uncover the truth was just beginning, and it would change everything I thought I knew about my life and my career. I worked as a marketing manager at a large corporation. My boss, Wayne, was the CEO, and I reported directly to him. I had been with the company for 5 years and had consistently delivered results. My colleagues respected me, and I had built a strong network within the industry. I was known for my creative campaigns and ability to drive sales. My team was talented, and together we had achieved some remarkable successes. I was 32 years old, and my career was on an upward trajectory. I had a good relationship with Wayne, or so I thought. We would meet regularly to discuss my projects, and he would often praise my work. But over time, I started to notice a change in his behavior. He would make snide comments about my ideas and question my decisions in front of my team. I brushed it off as a bad day, but the behavior continued. One day, I received an email from HR informing me that Wayne wanted to meet with me to discuss my performance. I was confident that it would be a routine meeting, but as I sat down in his office, I could sense a different tone in the air. "Anthony, we need to talk about your recent performance," he said, his voice firm but controlled. I leaned forward expecting feedback, but what he said next caught me off guard. "We've received complaints about your leadership style and we're considering replacing you." I was taken aback. What complaints? Who was complaining? I knew I had to respond, but before I could say anything, Wayne dropped another bombshell. "We'll discuss this further in the meeting next week." Meeting? What meeting? I left his office with more questions than answers, feeling a sense of unease that I couldn't shake off. Little did I know, my world was about to be turned upside down. I started noticing small changes in the office dynamics. Wayne would often forget to include me in important meetings or send me emails with vague instructions. My team would sometimes receive conflicting feedback from other departments, which would delay our projects. I tried to brush it off as miscommunication, but the incidents kept piling up. One day, I discovered that a project I had been working on for weeks had been altered without my knowledge. The changes weren't just minor. They completely shifted the focus of the project. I asked my team who had made the changes, but no one seemed to know. I rewrote the project to fit the original vision, only to have it get altered again a few days later. It was as if someone was deliberately trying to undermine my work. I mentioned it to Wayne, but he just shrugged it off, telling me I was being too sensitive. "Just roll with it, Anthony," he said. But I knew something wasn't right. The tension in the office was growing, and I could feel the weight of it bearing down on me. I started to wonder if I was the problem, or if someone else was behind it all. I decided to keep a closer eye on things, to see if I could catch whoever was behind it in the act. Little did I know, the sabotage was just beginning, and it would soon become much more personal. Wayne's behavior became more aggressive. He'd interrupt me in meetings, contradicting my ideas in front of my team. He'd question my expertise, making it seem like I didn't know what I was doing. One day, he took credit for a project I'd been working on for months. He presented it to the executive team as his own, and they praised him for it. I was furious. I confronted him about it, but he just denied it, saying I must have misremembered. "You're getting too big for your britches, Anthony," he said. "You need to be more team-oriented." I knew I had to document everything. I started keeping a record of all the incidents, including dates, times, and details of what happened. I also began to notice that my team was starting to doubt me. They'd look at me uncertainly when I'd give them instructions, and they'd sometimes go to Wayne behind my back. I knew I had to do something, but I wasn't sure what. Wayne's actions were starting to take a toll on my reputation, and I could feel my career slipping away from me. One day, I received an email from the executive team asking me to explain why the project had been delayed. The email was copied to Wayne, and I knew he would use it to further undermine me. I realized that I was in a fight for my career, and I was determined to win it. I spent hours crafting a response, detailing the challenges I'd faced and the reasons for the delay. I submitted it to the executive team, but I knew Wayne wouldn't give up easily. He'd keep pushing, trying to wear me down, and I knew I had to be ready for him. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. Every time I thought I had a handle on things, Wayne would do something else to undermine me. I started questioning myself, wondering if I was indeed the problem. Was I not good enough? Was I somehow flawed? I began to doubt my abilities, my confidence eroding with each passing day. I knew I needed to talk to someone, but I wasn't sure who to trust. I considered reaching out to HR, but something held me back. Maybe it was fear of being seen as weak, or maybe it was fear of retaliation. Whatever it was, I knew I couldn't keep it inside. I started writing down my thoughts, trying to process what was happening. I poured out my frustrations on paper, trying to make sense of the chaos around me. As I wrote, I realized that I wasn't just fighting against Wayne. I was fighting against my own doubts and fears. I knew I had to find a way to stand up for myself, to prove that I wasn't the one who was flawed. But how? I wasn't sure, but I knew I couldn't give up. I took a deep breath and started to think about my next move. I would gather evidence, document everything, and build a case against Wayne's sabotage. I would show him and everyone else that I wasn't the problem. I was determined to fight back, to take control of my career and my life. But as I sat there staring at my notes, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I fail? What if I'm not strong enough? What if? I pushed the thoughts aside and focused on the task at hand. I had work to do, and I was ready to do whatever it took to clear my name and restore my reputation. I began to meticulously document every incident of sabotage. I kept a log of emails, meetings, and conversations, noting the dates, times, and details of what happened. I saved emails and messages, even setting up a folder on my computer specifically for evidence. I asked my team members if they'd witnessed anything, and some of them came forward with their own stories. One colleague, Bronnie, told me she'd seen Wayne altering documents without my knowledge. Another colleague, Elena, said she'd overheard Wayne talking to someone about undermining me. I took detailed notes of their statements and encouraged them to come forward if they witnessed anything else. I also started to track the project's progress, comparing it to the original plan and timeline. I highlighted discrepancies and noted any changes that were made without my approval. I knew I needed solid evidence to prove that Wayne was sabotaging me. I spent hours organizing my documentation, making sure everything was in order and easily accessible. I was determined to expose Wayne's behavior and clear my name. As I gathered more evidence, I realized the extent of Wayne's sabotage went far beyond just a few isolated incidents. It was a deliberate and systematic effort to destroy my reputation and career. I knew I had to take action, but I wasn't sure what the consequences would be. I was ready to fight, but I needed to be strategic. I decided to schedule a meeting with HR to discuss my findings and get their advice on how to proceed. I was nervous but determined to see justice served. I walked into Wayne's office, my documentation folder in hand. "Wayne, we need to talk," I said, my voice firm. He looked up from his computer, a hint of annoyance on his face. "What's this about, Anthony?" he asked. "You know exactly what this is about," I replied, taking a seat. "You've been sabotaging me, undermining my work, and trying to destroy my reputation." Wayne leaned back in his chair, a look of surprise on his face. "That's quite an accusation," he said. "Do you have any proof?" I opened my folder and began to present my evidence. "This email shows you altered my project without my knowledge. This conversation log shows you contradicting me in front of my team, and this document shows you taking credit for my work." Wayne's expression changed from surprise to anger. "This is just a bunch of hearsay and misinterpretation," he said. "You're just being paranoid, Anthony." "I'm not being paranoid," I said, my voice rising. "I'm being sabotaged, and I have the evidence to prove it." Wayne's face turned red. "You're not going to win this fight, Anthony," he said. "You're just a small cog in a big machine. No one will believe you." "We'll see about that," I said, standing up. "I'm going to take this to HR, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what's been going on." Wayne's expression turned cold. "You're making a big mistake, Anthony," he said. "You're going to regret this." I left his office feeling a sense of determination. I was going to fight for my career, and I was going to win. I walked to the HR department, my documentation folder in hand, ready to present my case. As I walked, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen next. Would HR believe me? Would they take action against Wayne? I didn't know, but I was ready to find out. I took a deep breath and walked into the HR office, ready to face whatever came next. I decided to confide in Bronnie, a colleague I'd known for a while. We met at a nearby cafe, and I told her everything: the sabotage, the emails, the meetings. She listened attentively, her expression growing more concerned as I spoke. "I'm so sorry, Anthony," she said. "I had no idea it was this bad. I don't know what to do," I admitted. "I feel like I'm losing control." Bronnie nodded thoughtfully. "You need to document everything," she said. "Keep a record of all the incidents, including dates, times, and details of what happened." "I've already started doing that," I said. "But I don't know if it's enough." "It's a good start," Bronnie said. "You should also talk to HR. They need to know what's going on." I nodded, feeling a sense of determination. "You're right," I said. "I'll schedule a meeting with them today." Bronnie smiled encouragingly. "I'll support you, Anthony. We'll get through this together." I thanked her and left the cafe, feeling a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could stop the sabotage and clear my name. I walked back to the office, ready to face whatever came next. As I approached my desk, I noticed Meredith from HR walking towards me. "Anthony, can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked. "Of course," I said, wondering if Bronnie had already spoken to her. "I've been hearing some rumors about issues with your team," Meredith said. "Can you tell me more about what's going on?" I took a deep breath and began to explain, feeling a sense of relief that someone was finally listening. I spent the next few days gathering more evidence, documenting every incident of sabotage and organizing my records. I spoke to colleagues who had witnessed Wayne's behavior and gathered their statements. I also obtained emails and documents that showed the extent of the sabotage. As I built my case, I realized the scope of Wayne's actions was much broader than I had initially thought. I discovered that he had been manipulating project timelines, altering reports, and withholding critical information from me. I documented everything, making sure I had a solid foundation for my claims. I met with Diane, a senior manager, and presented my evidence to her. She listened attentively, her expression growing increasingly concerned. "Anthony, this is disturbing," she said. "We'll need to investigate this further." I nodded, feeling a sense of relief that someone was finally taking my claims seriously. I'll work with HR to gather more information and build a comprehensive case against Wayne, Diane said. In the meantime, I want you to keep documenting everything. I left Diane's office feeling a sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, I could bring Wayne's sabotage to an end and restore my reputation. I returned to my desk, determined to continue gathering evidence and building my case. As I sat down, I noticed an email from Wayne. "Meet me in my office at 2 p.m. It read, "We need to discuss the latest project developments." I felt a surge of anxiety. What was Wayne planning now? I decided to prepare for the meeting, reviewing my notes and evidence one more time. I was ready for him. I arrived at Wayne's office at 2 p.m., my documentation folder in hand. "Let's get down to business," I said, my voice firm. Wayne looked up, a mixture of surprise and annoyance on his face. "What's your problem, Anthony?" he asked. "You know exactly what my problem is," I replied. My eyes locked on his. The tension between us was palpable, and I knew this meeting was going to be intense. I sat in Meredith's office, going over the details of my case. She listened attentively, her expression growing more serious as I spoke. "Anthony, I believe you," she said. "But we need to take this to the top. I'll schedule a meeting with the CEO." I nodded, feeling a sense of hope. Maybe this was the turning point I needed. Meredith picked up the phone and dialed the CEO's number. "Hello, this is Meredith from HR. I need to schedule an urgent meeting with you regarding a personnel matter." She listened for a moment, then hung up the phone. "The CEO will see us tomorrow at 2 p.m., she said. "We'll present your case and see what can be done." I felt a surge of determination. This was it. This was my chance to finally clear my name and put an end to the sabotage. I spent the rest of the day preparing for the meeting, gathering my evidence and rehearsing my presentation. The next day, I walked into the CEO's office, feeling confident and determined. Meredith was already there, along with the CEO and several other executives. "Anthony, thank you for coming," the CEO said. "We'll get straight to the point. Meredith has informed us of the situation with your boss, Wayne." I took a deep breath and began my presentation, laying out the evidence and explaining the sabotage. The executives listened attentively, their expressions growing more serious as I spoke. When I finished, the CEO turned to Wayne, who was sitting in the back of the room. "Wayne, do you have anything to say for yourself?" Wayne's face turned red as he tried to defend himself, but it was too late. The damage was done. The CEO turned to me. "Anthony, we'll investigate this further and take necessary actions. In the meantime, you're being transferred to a new department, effective immediately." I felt a sense of relief wash over me. This was it. This was the turning point. My career was about to take a new direction and I was ready to take control. I walked into Wayne's office, my heart pounding in my chest. "Wayne, it's over," I said, my voice firm. "The CEO knows everything. You've been caught." Wayne's face turned red with anger. "You'll never prove it," he sneered. "I've covered my tracks too well." I smiled, feeling a sense of satisfaction. "You're wrong, Wayne. The evidence is overwhelming. You've sabotaged me for the last time." Wayne stood up, his eyes blazing with fury. "You're just a pawn in the game, Anthony," he said. "You'll never be able to take me down." I handed him a folder filled with documents and evidence. "This is it, Wayne. This is the proof. You've lost." Wayne's face fell as he flipped through the pages, realizing the extent of the evidence against him. "No," he muttered. "This can't be." The door burst open, and security guards walked in. "Wayne, you're being escorted out of the building," one of them said. "You're no longer employed here." Wayne's face turned white with shock. "No, this isn't fair," he protested. The guards led him out of the office, and I watched as he disappeared from view. It was finally over. I had won. I took a deep breath and walked out of the office, feeling a sense of relief and vindication. I had stood up for myself and I had come out on top. As I walked out of the building, I knew that this was just the beginning. I had a new chapter ahead of me, and I was ready to take on whatever came next. I felt a sense of determination and purpose. I was ready to move forward, to rebuild and start anew. The future was uncertain, but I was ready to face it head-on. I sat in the CEO's office, listening to the outcome of the investigation. "Anthony, we've reviewed the evidence and it's clear that Wayne sabotaged your work," the CEO said. "We've decided to terminate his employment, effective immediately." I nodded, feeling a sense of vindication. "We also want to offer you a new role within the company," the CEO continued, "one that better reflects your skills and contributions." I was surprised but also relieved. "Thank you," I said. "I appreciate the opportunity." The CEO smiled. "You've earned it, Anthony. You've shown great resilience and determination in the face of adversity. We're confident you'll excel in your new role." I left the CEO's office feeling hopeful about the future. I knew there would be challenges ahead, but I was ready to face them. I walked to my new office, feeling a sense of pride and accomplishment. I was starting a new chapter in my career, and I was excited to see what the future held. As I settled into my new role, I realized that the sabotage had been a blessing in disguise. It had forced me to stand up for myself and fight for what I deserved. I was stronger and more confident because of it. I began to focus on my new responsibilities, working to build a team and drive results. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready for the challenge. I was determined to succeed and make the most of my new opportunity. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. I worked hard, and my efforts paid off. My team was thriving, and we were achieving great results. I looked back on the sabotage as a distant memory, a bump in the road that had ultimately made me stronger. I was proud of myself for standing up for what I believed in, and I knew that I would always be ready for whatever challenges came my way. I sat in my new office, surrounded by unfamiliar walls and furniture. The past few weeks had been a whirlwind, and I was still trying to process everything that had happened. I thought back to the sabotage, the meetings, the evidence I had gathered. It had been a long and difficult journey, but in the end, justice had been served. I realized that I had learned a lot about myself and about the corporate world. I had learned that even in the most challenging situations, there are people who will stand up for you and fight for what's right. I thought about Bronny, who had been a rock for me throughout the ordeal. I thought about Meredith, who had believed me and fought for my case. And I thought about the CEO, who had listened and taken action. I realized that I had been given a second chance, a chance to start over and rebuild. I was determined to make the most of it, to learn from my mistakes and to grow as a person. I took a deep breath and stood up, looking out the window at the city below. I knew that there would be challenges ahead, but I was ready. I was ready to face them head-on, to learn and to grow. I was ready to start anew. I turned back to my desk and began to organize my thoughts, making a plan for the future. I knew that it wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to take on whatever came next. I was ready to move forward, to see what the future held. And I knew that no matter what, I would always stand up for myself and fight for what's right. Have you ever been in a situation where you felt like you were being sabotaged or undermined? I asked. Maybe it was at work, or maybe it was in a personal relationship. Whatever it was, I want you to know that you're not alone. If you're facing a similar challenge, I encourage you to stand up for yourself and fight for what's right. Don't give up, even when it seems like the odds are against you. Share your story with others, whether it's a friend, family member, or colleague. You never know who might be going through something similar and could use your support. I looked around the room, making eye contact with the audience. Let's start a conversation. Let's share our experiences and support each other. Because when we stand together, we can overcome even the toughest challenges. I leaned back, a sense of determination in my voice. So, what's your story? Share it with me, and let's start a conversation that can change lives. I tell very interesting stories on my channel, so if you're new here, kindly like the video, share it and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thank you.